Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the latest update. I won't keep you long. Got lots of updates on the edit for The End of Dragon, some updates on the cover art and the audiobook, and I've got a couple of very special guests. So we'll talk about them in a moment. Now, the first email has gone live to those people who wanted to be in the End of Dragons launch team. Now, you should have received that earlier today. If you didn't, check your spam folder. If it's not there, then drop me a line on the email address, which I'm just going to put up on the banners now. So if you drop me a line at unusuallytallstories@gmail.com. Now, apparently we're having a problem with Facebook. Queeve had this the other night. What does it say there?
We're having trouble streaming to Facebook. There's maybe an issue on Facebook's end.
Okay, well, if you're on Facebook, actually, could you do me a favor? No, you can't log in there. Don't worry. Oh, if you're on Facebook, I guess you're just going to have to go to YouTube, I think. So let's have a look. Let's have a quick look on Facebook. I might just put the YouTube link on there. But anyway, let's. Oh, yeah, that's rather awkward. I'm not going to bother with that. Anyway, we'll just keep going anyway. So if you have any other questions or comments, just pop them in the comments box. Emski is here to keep an eye on things for me. So it's the start of February, and I, for one, was quite grateful that January went on for what felt like 452 days, as I was up against a deadline to complete the draft of The End of Dragons to send to my editor, Simon Spanton, which I did this morning, February the 1st. Or February 31st, which the Radio Times app on my Apple News had this morning. And I definitely could not have done it without the help of my two special guests, two authors with whom I have a reciprocal, you show me yours, I'll show you mine agreement, or behave. Ian W. Sainsbury is the Kindle storyteller, award-winning author of The Picture on the Fridge. He also writes the magnificently violent revenge thrillers, the Jimmy Blue revenge thrillers, which are such a treat. And we got Julian Barr, the acclaimed author of The Way Home, The Ivory Gate, and The Seven Hills, as well as the Viking-inspired serial Tooth and Blade, which is bloody brilliant. Now, he's in Australia and has kindly agreed to join me at silly o'clock in the morning. So let's bring them on. There we go. There's Ian and Julian. Good morning. Good evening, gents. How are you?
Oh, caffeinating. Good.
I'm the opposite of caffeine over here.
Right. Okay. Excellent. So thank you. Welcome both, and thank you for reading The End of Dragons. And also, I think you both read The End of Magic to catch up beforehand. So let's talk a little about the process of being a beta reader and what that means. Then once we've done that, I want to go through some of the more cryptic comments that you've left on the text. We're going to keep it spoiler free, so don't worry. So
be a test.
Yes, definitely keep it spoiler free. So Ian, I've been reading your stuff for a while. You've been reading my stuff. What keeps you? What is this beta reading malarkey? What's that all about?
Oh, well, I think it's a real treat. I don't think I'll ever get past that idea. So if it was me finishing a book and sending it to beta readers, it's just to say it wouldn't be my first draft, but it might be after the first draft has been tidied up and maybe tightened a little bit. So it might be second draft, might be third draft, possibly. But then I'm willing to show it to not everybody, but some people I trust to make comments and identify any weak points. And what I really like about sending out to beta readers is there's usually one or two things that I'm not absolutely sure about. I think, does this character work in this situation, or did that cliffhanger felt a bit contrived to me? But they probably won't spot it. And then you get your comments back, and everybody in the beta, all the beta readers say that cliffhanger was a bit contrived, mate. What were you thinking? So I think it confirms stuff that you already knew, and sometimes those things that you didn't know you knew, but there was a bit of you just kind of thinking, no, I think I got away with that. But the beta readers will spot it, and your work ends up better because of it. So it's I'm always pleased to have. Well, Mark you read my books first before they go to the beta readers. Really, you're my first reader, so I get your comments back first, and then my beta readers get it after you, which means they think Ian's drafts are really rather clean. He's pretty good, because they don't. I've just let my dirty secret out, but yeah, it's all. But I love doing it, and I love getting the feedback as well. So,
Julian, a beta reads for you. Is it something that you've always done?
Yeah, I've done it for a while. it's a real privilege to have an insight into the author's process, and I really enjoy doing it for friends who are on a similar wavelength to me as a storyteller and the kind of thing that we want to write, because I figure, they're not going to laugh at me for screwing up sometimes with my earlier drafts, but also they'll have more of a sense of what I was trying to do. Sometimes they understand what I'm trying to do better than I do.
Yeah.
So I'll echo what Ian said, and it's just fantastic. I'm really grateful to be part of your beta reading team.
Oh, well, it's I mean, it's such a pleasure because it's not like a full edit. It's more the first test of the story and the characters. And just, I think that we've all found that we enjoy the same kind of stuff. So, I mean, I remember when, starting the Bestseller Experiment podcast, I'd never used beta readers before. And I was kind of suspect of the whole process, but I love it. It's such an essential part of what I do now. And I'm just very, delighted to have. Reading your stuff from my point of view, it's just an absolute joy. It's such a treat that I get to do that first. So, so Ian, you came up with one of your notes, which you came up with a genre name, because one of the problems with, the End of Magic is fantasy, the End of Dragons is fantasy, but it's not as out and out trying to be funny as Terry Pratchett, and it's not as grimdark as Grimdark. It's somewhere in the middle. And you came up with a genre name for my stuff, which I love. So what did you call it?
Grimdark.
There we go, Grimdark. Everyone. Ian has invented a new genre, and
I think I was very pleased with myself that morning.
Yeah,
I thought that's it. That captures your tone. Because you've still got the gruesome stuff, people die, and they don't die in quiet off the page ways. They die messily, with guts and blood and limbs all over the place, which I love. And yet somehow there's time for a cup of tea at the end of it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, excellent stuff. What I'd like to do, because one of the things you guys do, it's like I said, it's not a full edit. But you do leave, you do suggest changes. You do leave comments in the margin. All that really, really helpful stuff tells you where you might have been bumped out the story where something doesn't make sense, which is so useful, so incredibly useful. But I'm just going to write. You left a couple of comments which sort of bumped me out of the comments, and I thought, the viewers today might appreciate seeing. So the first one comes from Julian, which is, what do they use for contraceptives? Now, this is the kind of thing that beta reading is all about. So let's keep it spoiler free. But we have a couple of characters who get intimate. And of course, this is historical fantasy. They just can't pop down to the pharmacy and, get some birth control. So, and this is classic Julian, because this is why Julian's so good. He does, he knows historical stuff. He knows historical fantasy. And this is the kind of stuff you're so good at pointing out. So, it's little details like this that can make all the difference, isn't it, Julian?
Oh, 100%. And look, I'll admit I have a bias in this area. This is one of the themes that my PhD research touched on, was the history of contraception. So I always ask the question, we often assume that things in the past worked exactly the same way as the present. And you've got guy and a girl having fun off on a desert island somewhere. I'm wondering, how are they preventing babies?
What I have sort of decided to kind of gloss over it, to be honest, because I didn't want it to become a kind of I didn't want to get too gynecological. So what I'm gonna do, and this is another thing with beta reading, is I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna park that comment and see what the editor thinks of it, and then see what the copy editor thinks of it. And if you get that same note several times, then it's like, I've got to do something about it then. But yeah.
Speaking as your future proofreader, you're going to get it again if it's not addressed.
That's true. Yes, you get a second round at this, don't you? You get a second round at this. Okay, so Ian, one of my favourite notes from you, and this is quite a mouthful. The pedant in me has to point out that this doesn't fit with his dalliances mentioned earlier. Maybe a comment about the discomfort of a swollen member in a metal cod piece instead. Now, viewers, this is not a smutty book, but it's just these two have decided to focus on some of the more mechanical parts of the body. So, Yes, Kevin, just make all the characters. Brilliant. Thank you, Gavin. I shall bear that in mind.
Third worst ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would work with Julian's, but not with my comment.
No.
I was being pedantic because I feel like it's a first draft thing. It's just without saying much about the scene in question, but I could say a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a character who basically is quite libidinous and then makes a comment about having trouble getting aroused. And actually, that comment made me go, I'm going to cut that line. It's kind of a cheap joke, hasn't earned its place, and it bumps the reader out the story. And that was one of my bad habits, is just putting cheap jokes in because I can. And so it's good to be talked off the ledge with some of those. So that was very helpful. Thank you, Ian.
That's right. Well, there's a lot of funny stuff in the book, so cutting a few won't hurt it.
Exactly. Yes. So Julian, this is reptiles generally don't have lips. My dragons do, but my dragons talk. So Julian, very good point. I'm too used to animated dragons that happily chat away, and my dragons don't talk. Your dragons do. Tell me about your dragons.
The dragon in my series, The Kingdoms of Grimm, is basically anthropomorphic. It does have a human, probably beyond human level of intelligence, and it communicates. And I didn't want to do the telepathic dragon thing, but it just suddenly hit me. It's a really specific evolutionary feature of mammals that we have lips, because as this is a theme, I think, as babies, we need to suckle at the mother's breast. And I guess that it got me thinking about Dragonheart, where one of the most common complaints is the dragon looks a bit cartoony, and it's really difficult to put your finger on why, because it actually is very realistic until you see it's got lips.
It's got lips.
These are very yes. Reptiles don't always have the ability to swallow either. Same as birds. They just like
neck it back.
Like that, yeah.
Oh, moments you never saw coming. Right, another great comment from Ian was, "Everyone is a bastard," which delighted me. So, what prompted this, Ian? Again, keeping it spoiler free.
Firstly, I love the fact that Julie and I pick up on such different things, but that's great. Of course, and seeing those comments, I think, yes, I want to know, but I wouldn't have in a million years picked up on that. So that's really interesting. But yeah, everyone is a bastard. This is a compliment because it was just, there are characters. There's lots of characters in the book, and yet you never lose sight of who's who. It's all very clear. We've had a lot of those characters in the first book, so we've grown to know and love them. But we love them not even despite of, maybe because of the darker side to all of them. They're all bastards in their own lovely way. None of them come out of this as just pure and wonderful people, and is all the better for it. Because how can you identify with someone who's just perfect? And exactly, there's the tagline for the promo. Yeah, that's spot on.
Kevin, thank you. Yeah, I think that's going to be in my blurb if Amazon will let me use it. They wouldn't let me use the phrase "spotted dick and custard" because of the word "dick." Thanks, Amazon. Thank you, American squeamishness. But yeah, so yeah, okay. And the thing is, as well, you get this thing. A lot of writers, I think, worry that people are going to think that their characters are unlikable. Whereas actually, I think the divide is there's unlikable, and we love unlikable characters. You think of the Joker or Hannibal Lecter or whatever. These are terrible people, but they're interesting. Crucially, they're interesting, and I think that's what I always try and aim for. And another brilliant comment from Julian here. Yes, which makes me wonder why the prince didn't whip it out at the first opportunity. Now, viewers, we're not talking about a piece of his body here. We're talking about a piece of weaponry, which again, I'm going to keep spoiler free. But this, again, was a really good point. It's one of these things that I completely missed. And I'm so glad you brought it up, because I've gone back and shifted around a couple of things to help keep the weapon in place, but we don't use it until later. It's just the arrogance of this character means they get, oh, I don't want to use that. I'm going to go in and do my own thing. So, so yeah.
Well, they may be compensating for something. So, you know, the body comment maybe not that far off.
I'd be fascinated if you know, people watching this who might read the book later on, if they're going to have the similar comments. I mean, this is one thing. This is some Ian's next comment is one that I aim for. Really, I aim to get this out of my readers, which is Ian said, I am very upset. Again, let's keep this spoiler free. But yeah, this was towards the end of the book, wasn't it?
Yes, and I was very upset. And as all credit to your writing, you know, that's there's. I mean, this has always happened in novels, but for some reason, people point at George R.R. Martin and say, "Oh, yes, well, you can really like certain characters, but you don't know if they're safe or not." But I think that's always been there in novels. I don't know why it's particularly become attached to him. It's not a new thing. However, it feels much more real if you think there's real jeopardy there for the characters you love, and there is real jeopardy, and something happened. An unfortunate event, and I was very upset.
Well, thank you. I will take that as a compliment. I will. So Rachel wants me to let you know she's still very upset about a certain death in the first book. Which one, Andrew? There were so many. Yes. Well, let's we'll read the book and see what happens. Well, thank you so much, gents. Now let's talk about you for a bit. What's coming from you folks, or what's out there from you? So I'm putting out on the ticker tape. There's Ian. You can find out more about Ian there, ianwsainsbury.com. And for Julian, you go to jbarauthor.com. So Ian, I talked about the Jimmy Blue books, which are my favorite books of yours. These are brilliant revenge thrillers. Can you tell us a bit about those?
Yeah, it's my sort of tagline for that was Jack Reacher meets Jekyll and Hyde, and that kind of is the idea in a nutshell. It's a gentle giant of a man, Tom, who lives a quite simple life and who has a lot of our sympathies, and the other side to him, Jimmy Blue, who wants to pay a visit in the first book, certainly, to the people who killed Tom's parents 20 years ago. But once he gets a taste for it, there are plenty of other people who deserve a bit of a kicking, and much, much worse.
Yeah.
And so things continue.
Brilliant. Julian, I mean, I've loved all. I think I've read everything you've done. But I think the Tooth and Blade series, I think, is probably my favorite, which, you know, people can find out there. Do you want to tell us about that, and tell us about what you're working on next? I think you're working on a game at the moment.
Yeah, got two things on the go at the moment. I've got a game which I've got the book, the interior layouts done for the game book. It's a tabletop RPG, which basically is like Flash Gordon meets C.S. Lewis, is the way that I describe it.
See everyone perks up. Yes.
So that's called Star Rider, and I'm aiming to have that out for early play testing in the next couple of months. That's very exciting. The whole premise with that one is it's a rules light RPG. It's not one of these things where you have to buy 3 volumes of rules and have to read literally 1,500 words. 1,500 pages of rules. You can just pick up the rule book, and very quickly, within 15 minutes, casual players can be up and running.
Excellent. Sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
Great.
Just
yeah. Go ahead.
Word on that game. If it's Flash Gordon meets C.S. Lewis, if you don't get a character to shout, "Aslan is alive," I'm going to be upset.
Ian, thank you. You made my day, and it's only just started.
Great stuff. Well, I'm going to wrap things up now. Just to give folks a quick update on the other things that we've talked about. So I'm going to bring up, you should still be able to hear me now. So hopefully you can still hear me. I've figured this out from last time. So we've got the publication timeline. So beta reads, done. Thank you, Jeds. February, the edit has begun. I've sent it to my editor, Simon Spanton. Simon edited The End of Magic. He was also a magnificent editor at Gollancz. He's edited all of your favorite fantasy authors. So it's I'm really, really looking forward to that. So everything's still on schedule. The only thing is I've booked a cover artist, but the soonest they can have the artwork ready is April. Turns out people who do art for book covers are really, really busy. Who'd have thunk it? There are a couple of big names that I looked into to see if I could maybe get them, damn the expense kind of thing. They wouldn't get back to me till 2025. So yeah, I booked I don't want to name the artist just in case I don't like what they've done. So, but I'm sure it'll be fine. Audiobook. Now, I did start recording the audiobook, and then I got to the first chapter with Haldor Frang. Now, as he's described in the book, he has this kind of erotic rolling R thing, which ended up as a Scottish accent, which ended up as a bit groundskeeper Willie. So I think I've overdone it. I'm going to dial it back a bit and re-record. And Emily, who's manning the machine for me tonight, and her fella, they basically live upstairs, so they creak about a bit. But you're going away for a week, so I'm going to have a quiet week. So I might have a real go at it then and see how far back we get. Have we got any questions?
Magic, isn't it?
Sorry, the end of magic.
Yeah,
magic.
sorry.
Yeah.
I want to hear the first version. I want Groundskeeper Willie.
I've got the MP3. I might
yes,
put
please.
it up somewhere. But it's I was listening back to it and thinking that's too much. I mean, where do you stand on accents in audiobooks? I mean, a light touch is the way to go, isn't it? Kind of
for me, unless you're absolutely king of acting and doing the accents, then yeah, a light touch is definitely better.
So it's not the groundskeeper Willie level of
Although I still want to hear it.
Yes.
Oh, so Mike goes accents all the way. Okay, right. Well, we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Any questions, folks? Now, people were asking about the Witches of Woodville. Corn Bride, basically, because I had a deadline to get this done by the end of January, last couple of weeks I've not done any Corn Bride. I'm back in the saddle with Corn Bride tomorrow. I've got to deliver that by April-ish to Simon & Schuster. I've got all these deadlines in April and May. It's going to be bonkers next couple of months. So I'm back in the saddle on that. Lots of stuff going there. So that's it from me, really. Any other questions or any other comments? So accents, not accidents. Yes. Sorry. Did I say that? So yes, there will be a live show next month. I don't think it's going to be on Facebook because his Queeve was having trouble with Facebook the other night with the live stream. I'm having trouble with Facebook. I think Facebook can jog on, frankly. Here we go. We've got a question. Richie, hello. First time caller, long time reader. Which character do you most want to play in a film? Me. What character do I want to play in a film? I've already played Man in Pub, and I'd just like to say I really brought something to that role, I think, as well. And man watching bare knuckle fist fight in Robot Overlord. So that was the role I was born to play. I don't know what would. Oh gosh, I've always wanted to be an X-wing pilot. That would be cool because you just sit there and stay on target and jig about a bit. I could do that in a Star Wars thing. Oscar Worthy, thank you, Will. Thank you so much. Julian, yes.
Is Sainsbury you?
Yes.
Okay.
Sainsbury is the closest you'll get to me in a novel. I think Terence Bright in Sir Faye's dad in the Woodville books is sort of a combination of me and my dad and Sid James.
You're too nice. You're too nice to be Sainsbury.
Well, it's the cynical, horrible version of me. So yeah, but it's the closest you'll get to me until maybe the next book. There's a book I'm thinking about doing which features a hero in their 50s. But that's a long way. I forgot to finish all this other stuff first. Steve says, Steve Gallon, was it hard to get back into the world of Ender Magic after doing Witches of Woodville? It had been 4 and a bit years since I'd finished it. and I hadn't read it in that time. So I got the rights back from Unbound, and I thought, I'm going to go back in and have a read, and just, is this any good, and do I enjoy this? And I was like, it's like coming home. I just loved Sandra. I love Roisin, love Malachi, who in the original draft I killed. And Ed said, my agent said, no, keep him alive, keep him alive. Just imagine, Sandra and Malachi having adventures. And I'm so glad I did, because Malachi does so much in this next one. He has so much fun in this. So, no, I loved it. It was great. And I'm really looking forward to getting on with a third one as well, because it's, and I will wrap it up after 3. I think 3 will be it. There might be very short stories or what have you. But no, I really enjoyed it. It was great.
There, I thought it was Malachi.
Right. Well, I call him Malachi, but
and I said Malachi.
Malachi. And it's I did a spell check before I sent it off today, and the most misspelled name was Malachi, which had one too many else. That's Malalki. So yeah, but I say Malachi, so Malachi Nai. So that's so yeah, Malachi. I'd put an I on the end if it was Malachi, wouldn't you? But what do I know? But I'm the character who, Roisin should be spelled Roisin, the Irish way. But I just thought I'd do it phonetically for people who aren't familiar with the Irish naming convention. So there's a character in this that was called Bridge for a long time, spelled Brid, but I thought I'd just change it to a J. It's fancy world, so I can sort of get away with it. So cool. I think that's it, folks. So yes, next month, updates on the edit. I should get that back from Simon by the end of the month. An update on the audiobook and the accents, and hopefully another special guest as well. But how can they be a special? As Julian and Ian here, you've been fantastic, gentlemen. Thank you again so much for reading this for me, and your incredible feedback, and for doing it so quickly as well. You turned it around really, really quickly. So I'm very, very grateful for that. So until next time, folks, have a great February. It won't last as long as January. I think physics has proven that. And I'll see you around next time. So take care. Bye-bye.